So what is the biggest challenge that someone trying to manage their weight or lose fat will face?
I would say knowing what to eat, knowing how much to eat, and sticking to a diet plan and staying away from what they shouldn't have. I think that knowing how much to eat of everything is the hardest.
So how do you overcome that?
I would say make a plan. I, even myself, as I'm trying to bulk, which I'm trying to put on muscle, so I'm actually eating in a surplus, but I still don't want to overeat too much where I put on bad fat. So there is like a sweet spot, and I make myself a plan like where I'm going to eat this for breakfast, this for lunch, this for dinner, and 2 snacks in between. And then that helps me say, okay, it's not time to eat yet. And so I'm not going to eat whatever I'm opening the fridge and looking at. I'll shut the fridge and be like, nope, it's not time to eat, and walk away. And then also you're able to actually have something written down and document like, okay, I was eating this much. So now when you do check-ins later, or, you check in with yourself, you take pictures or do progress pictures, whatever you do, you can look back at those and say, okay, well, I look like this and I ate this much. That helps gauge and keeps you on track. I would say the biggest thing when I bring people on is write down everything you're eating so I know what we're kind of starting with. So then I can put that into my calculator and say, okay, well, she was eating 2,000 calories and she's not losing weight, so I'm going to bump her down.
Right. So having some kind of food journal will be helpful to anyone who's starting a journey of weight loss.
Yeah, and also it keeps you accountable. Like think when you knowing you have to write down something, are you going to have ice cream 2 times a day? Probably not, because you're like, man, I got to track that.
Yeah.
So it does keep you a little bit more accountable.
So,
thanks for watching this video. If you've got any questions that you'd like our experts to answer, please leave them in the comments below.